And the interviewer's like, "Oh, hey Kobe, how's it going?" He goes, "Why aren't you smiling? Are you happy?" He goes, "What's there to celebrate?" They're like, "Well, you just put up 40 something points and you're up 3-0. Is the job finished?" And he goes, you took a commanding lead. He goes, "Oh, so is the job finished?" And they were like, he goes, "Okay, and then there's nothing to celebrate. The job's not done."
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lopes-Silvero, and I'm here with Chris Ball, Zach McElwain, and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you into the conversations of top producing life insurance agents so that you can level up your business. For episode notes and resources, visit liapodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. Also, make sure you subscribe to our text notifications for episode releases and agent resources. All you have to do is send the letters LIA to the number 82149. That's 82149 and a message with the letters LIA. Thanks for joining us. In today's episode, we're diving into a key activity that you should be doing every day in your life insurance business: tracking and reviewing your numbers. Now, we'll discuss why your numbers are important, what numbers you should track, and how you can use this information to increase your sales. But first, guys, I have to ask, do you all really think that this topic is, exciting, fun, or engaging, and that people will even continue to listen?
That is a great question, Austin. As a numbers guy, I'm using quote fingers because it's funny. I've never been a big numbers. The maths don't do me well.
You're not a numbers guy?
I know, it's surprising.
You're the first one that tries to answer every math question.
Yeah. Actually, it's really true.
It is.
That's because he's trying to get the jump on it, hoping he's right this one time.
That's happened once in my life. But I think the only time that I ever thought numbers were interesting or engaging was in the movie The Matrix. Oh no! Did you see that movie?
Yes.
Neo.
Yeah, they're making a new one, I think. Actually.
The numbers were so interesting, they just kept calling Keanu back.
That's right. He thought the numbers were interesting too, right? Because he's making lots of money. But this idea that there's this what appears to be an indecipherable flow of digits that nobody understands, and it's affecting our reality. So, that was fascinating to me. And it kind of felt like, as we talk about this today, that people will feel the same way, as they are entering this business. They're looking at these numbers. They have no idea what they mean, what they are.
But why is it that people aren't excited to talk about numbers? Why aren't numbers sexy?
Because they're boring, man. I mean, it feels like that. It feels like, unless you know what they mean, then. But
the results aren't boring.
Yeah, it sounds like for Zach, like the results are what, the meaning, the value of the numbers are to him. But Chris, what is that value to you?
Numbers tell you the truth. There's no getting around it. And I'm saying that as somebody who needs that. I'm an emotional person. I experience high highs and low lows, and I think the numbers aspect of that, if I don't have, I don't have a compass or something that's helping me measure that, the truth is that can really affect my activity. And I know it affects other people's activity. I think there's a romance to owning your own business or doing your own thing, or, being your own boss. And the romantic ideas of making a lot of money get slammed. You get slammed in the face with the truth of when you get your first no, and your second no, and your third no, and it's not what you thought it was until you look at numbers, and they won't lie to you. They will tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue with data. Roger, you had kind of your own numbers of your own that you've developed from a book you read, and I think you've mentioned it on other episodes, but do you mind kind of sharing a little bit about that?
Simon & Schuster in 1974, which is 46 years ago.
Correct.
I wasn't very old then. Published a book called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling, by Frank Betchker. This guy was a Major League Baseball player when the MLB paid nothing and had to actually make some money in his life, got into the insurance business and was about to quit. And there's a chapter in his book that is the one idea that put me back into business after I had quit. And it's this idea that the president of the company that he was actually working for at the time, the president came out into the bullpen, called a meeting when he was in there cleaning out his desk secretly to get his fountain pen. That's the only reason why he went back in, because mentally he had quit. He wasn't making any money, and he was sneaking in to get all of his stuff out of his desk. And while he was cleaning out his own desk in this big bullpen area, the president came out and called an impromptu meeting and got up and shared his story. And Mr. Walter Lamar Talbot, he called this meeting, and so Frank Betchker was stuck. He couldn't leave then in the middle of the meeting. And he said this, "Gentlemen, after all, this business of selling narrows down to just one thing, seeing the people. Seeing the people. Show me any man or woman of ordinary ability who will go out and earnestly tell their story to 4 or 5 people every day, and I will show you a person who just can't help making good." And that was the thing that triggered it for Frank Betchker, and it allowed him to see that he didn't need emotional weight or emotional wins or losses associated with the result at the end. He just needed to put his focus on the numbers of telling his story 4 or 5 times a day. And he said, surely I can tell my story 4 or 5 times a day. It's just a numbers game. And once he started implementing the numbers, it changed everything for him. He goes on and gives a formula of how his numbers doubled and tripled and continued to escalate to the point where he became a legend in the insurance business and an author of a book that, millions of people have read. So the idea of focusing on the numbers and not the emotional weight of the result is what transforms everything. So the numbers do matter.
Definitely. And on that line of results, Zach, how do the numbers translate to results for you? What are you looking for? What do those numbers mean to you?
By knowing your numbers, you can know areas of improvement. You can know how much money you need to bank to sustain your lifestyle or grow your lifestyle. You will know, you can dial all that in, and by getting better, you can spend more time at home if that's what you choose. Because this business is very unique in the industry we're in, because everything's on a sliding scale of time and money. And you can spend more days in the field and make a dump truck full of money, or you can spend less and live a really, really good life, making the same, if not more, than any other regular job working 5 days a week. You can make that in 2 in this industry, and spend 5 days with your family. So everybody comes to this business with a different ratio in mind of what they want, how they want their balance. Do they want to make a normal amount of money and be home 5 days a week? Or do they want to work 5 days a week like they would in a corporate job, except make 3 times the amount of money they would in a corporate job? And that's the cool thing. And the only way you can figure that out is to really know your numbers and dial them in.
And what are those numbers?
The number that everybody looks at is the money. That's the first number that everybody glances at, or the production or the sell of an application. But in order for that to increase, it's all the tiny numbers that you have to know and that you have to dial in that really impacts it. When Chris talks about being emotional, it's natural, especially if you're new in this industry, or if you've been here under, a year, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah.
Because I know when I started, and pretty much everybody else that I know started, everything is so sensitive at the beginning. You get your first app, and all of a sudden you're just, ecstatic. You're excited. You're already calculating the amount of money that's going to hit your bank account. You're so pumped up and ready to go. You have a great week. And then if you have one policy cancel, even if it's a small one, a tiny one, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this business isn't for me. I need to, find a regular job making $25,000 instead of the $100,000 and $200,000 that I was making because one policy canceled. So the emotional swings are crazy. especially early on. And the only reason for that is because you don't understand or trust the numbers. Your emotions are hanging on whatever your last app was coming in production. But so it really takes some time to figure that out and understand that it is a numbers game. And once you do, you kind of level out. Do you think that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, anybody that's won a scoring title in the NBA or anybody, do you think they've taken more shots in practice or the game?
And that's a
I
trick
wonder
question.
what it is, Zach. Why don't you tell us the answer?
The answer is in the game. Because like Allen Iverson. No, I'm just kidding. But
He might have. That's the
but
truth.
you know, it's the numbers that nobody sees. It's the unpretty numbers that make the difference. It's the practicing your presentation in home. It's reading books to sharpen your mind. It's all these little tiny things. That is the practice. That's like the number of reps that you get doing that makes the difference. So when you're in the home, you are closing more of your sales. You are getting into more doors or setting more appointments on the same number of leads. You are, purchasing more leads at this time, so you have more opportunities. So all these little numbers, they matter and they add up. But it's the ones that make the biggest difference aren't the ones you're thinking. It's the production doesn't just go up. Oh, I know my production. It keeps, it's increasing. But why is it increasing? It's because the little tiny unsexy numbers are increasing that are going up, which is your activity, right? The number of times you get into to a home or get a sit or you do a presentation with a client, the number of phone calls you make to set the appointment, the number of yeses that you get in the home, the number of no's that you get in the home. All of these things matter.
And so, Zach, I think you built a great tool for agents to be able to see what those numbers are. Will you kind of walk through that tool and what you're looking at and what it indicates?
Called the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole idea is to really to keep yourself accountable. And so you can develop consistency, because you don't want to be that one agent that hits the number one on the leaderboard in your group one time and you disappear for the next 5 weeks. And then all of a sudden you hit number one again. Because I know that week you felt number one, you felt great, you felt confident and capable. And just a simple tool like this activity sheet, it can dial in and figure out what are you missing? What are the areas of improvement? And how do you even look at this? Like, okay, Austin, I wrote down all my numbers. Now what? Like, what? They just look like numbers to me on a sheet now instead of in my head. But so we put together this tool that can kind of explain, and you can diagnose problems, even if you're a manager or just somebody trying to help somebody and you're not necessarily sitting in the car with them or listening to them set appointments or in the home with them as they're closing. This will help you kind of diagnose the problems. The first thing on the sheet is the time of the first door knock. And you'll see the last thing on the sheet is time of market exit. And the reason we have the time in there is because at the end of the day, if time matters. A lot of our clients, if you're working from 2 in the afternoon to 5, well, there may be a reason why you're not getting any doors or you're not seeing anybody face to face. If you're not going out until 2 in the afternoon and you're staying till late at night, well, most of your sits might be late at night. So it just kind of lets you know what amount of true activity are you putting in. Are you getting out there at a good time, and are you leaving at a good time? Our next one is door knocks and clover leaves. The door knocks lets us basically is going to be our activity. How many people did we attempt to see? How many doors did we actually knock on? This isn't anything special. This is directly related to activity. Are you putting in the work? Are you putting in the time? Are you putting in the effort is really what the door knock means. Clover leaves are basically, some people call it running the T or knocking on the neighbors or the person across the street. If you knock on your door and let's assume nobody's home, you turn around, you have a home to your left, a right, and across the street, it makes a 3-leaf clover. So that's kind of where we get that term from. So clover leafing on our activity sheet is just pure effort and activity. And are you trying to make something happen? That's it. It's because for every lead you have, you really have for opportunities, even if they're not home. We have phone calls on here, which is also another activity because you may not be door knocking. You may be calling to set appointments to either do a phone sit during COVID, or it might be to set an appointment for mortgage protection, or just to drop by, or to get them their information, or however you want to do it. But that's also an activity measurement. Now, we start to getting to the next categories, which is actually appointments that you set on the phone or meetings that you have face-to-face at the door. So these are actually opportunities to have a sit or an opportunity to present to somebody. And what I mean by that, door knocks, you may say all day long, oh, nobody's home. I knocked on 30 doors today. No, not one person was home. And to be honest, for new people, it's easy to do that. How come the more experienced agents or the agents in your group that are top producers, how come they never have issues when it comes to finding people home? Well, the reason is because they want to find people home. So when you actually see them at the door, that is a meeting face-to-face. So you're sitting with, or you're knocking on the door and you speak to your potential client to have an opportunity to have a sit. You're calling on the phone and you're talking to Mr. Austin that you called, so you have an opportunity to set an appointment. If the grandkid answered and said grandma's not there, that's not a face-to-face because you can't set an appointment with the grandson, right? So the next category we're going to have is the actual sits or the presentations that we do. That doesn't mean you're entering in the home and talking about NASCAR, then they kick you out. This is actually talking about the insurance or what you're there to discuss. The next category we have is how many apps did you sell off of those leads? You know, could have got one app. You could have got 10 apps. You know, how many leads did you actually retire? Which is you getting an actual no. Not, oh, it's not a good time, come back later. It's not a retired lead. It's, did you actually get a yes or a no? How many referrals did you generate? How many apps did you get off of those referrals? And then what was your total annualized premium? So when you look at these categories, you'll see we have these for each day. The first thing we have is a daily goal for each of these. So we want to set that so we know what our numbers are. If we want to make 100,000, Austin, we know it has to be a certain numbers. Those numbers that we talked about in episode 1, they will go on our daily goal section. And then each day moving forward, Monday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we will be able to track on this sheet. Now, how these things work together is pretty cool. Obviously, if you're not having very many sits, okay, but you're having a high number of face-to-faces at the door, we know as the manager or somebody's trying to help this brand new agent that there's an issue at the door knock. Or there's an issue setting an appointment on the phone because we're finding the people and we're getting in front of them, but we aren't able to sit with them for one reason or another. So we'd want to work on actually being able to get into the door and get a sit with a family. If you're getting, let's say door knocking is not an issue, but you're actually sitting with quite a few families every week, maybe 10, 12, 15 families, but you're only selling 2 or 3 apps. Well, we know there's something in the home that is the problem. Door's not the problem. The activity isn't the problem because you're certainly sitting with a large number of families. The issue is going to be maybe some trust building, courting, or in some of the episodes we talked about, the 5 real reasons that people don't buy. But we know the issue is a presentation or a presenting issue in the home. If your door knock numbers are very low, well, that's purely an activity issue. So we would look at the time of the first door knock or market exit. The solution might be we're just not spending enough time in the home to get the results that we want or that we desire. And that's okay if that's what your goal is, but your goal can't be make $100,000, not submit $100,000 worth of business on a low contract so you end up making 30, right? It's make $100,000. Well, we might need to have to reevaluate our goal if our activity is not going to line up with that.
I think, too, even going before that, it also looks at your lead flow. Do you even have enough opportunities to door knock?
Exactly right. You're exactly right. So down below on this sheet, we have the number of leads that we have that were maybe carryover leads from our inventory that we didn't retire ourselves, or new leads that we have to make sure we do have enough inventory to work through. But here's another one a lot of people don't think about is looking at the AP, the annualized premium. We know what the average should be in the final expense industry, okay, which is generally around $59 a month-ish, and you're looking around $700, $720 in annualized premium per app. Some apps are a lot larger, some apps are a lot lower. We understand that, but it's a numbers game, so it will always work out to be right about that. If you're getting a certain number of applications and your annualized premium is very low, well, what that's going to communicate to me is we need to work on with that agent of building value, finding the real need, but most importantly, pricing. We need to figure out what kind of pricing strategy they're using, and how do they determine in that coverage amount, because there seems to be a discrepancy in the number of apps and the actual premium. So really, you can see where this sheet, it's not just about documenting the numbers or writing the numbers down. It's looking and analyzing the numbers and what are those numbers really telling us? What story are they giving us about this particular agent or about us personally?
I've seen agents come in who have come in like a rocket with their big numbers act, like you've talked about, the amount of income they want to make. And they hit some big numbers in the first quarter, but they didn't track. They weren't tracking their numbers like Zach is talking about specifically. And because they didn't track their door knocks, they didn't track the AP that was generated and not know pricing strategies and things like that, they burn out in a flash.
Well, that's because they don't really, like you said, they don't track their numbers, so they don't understand what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong.
Right.
And the reason they come out so successful at the beginning is Frank Betchker's favorite word, enthusiasm.
Yeah.
They're just flat out excited, and it's on their face, and they're going to see clients, and they're selling it off their personality, or some of them are lucky enough to have a face like you, Chris.
I know.
And
I know.
And you can have some big numbers, and it feels great, and you feel like you're on top of the world. So you have that, but there's something else that jumps in there, and it's celebrating your success. Because and this kills me all the time, and I've never understood it personally, but is anybody coming off a big week or a fast start into this business, if you're a brand new person, you tend to take the foot off the gas. You tend to cruise a little bit, and then all of a sudden it gets a little harder. And you just like they talk about.
And then you've lost your enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You lost your enthusiasm, your excitement. You've made a little bit of money. You've had a couple chargebacks, and it's just like in professional sports, they always call it the sophomore slump, right? That typically comes in around month 3 to 4 in the insurance business. That's when that sophomore slump is going to really hit you and put you down a little bit. And if you don't know your numbers, like we talked about at the beginning of this call, your emotions are everywhere. For the first 3 months, you are going to be you're targeting the number one producer in your group. I'm going to be the best. I'm already going to buy this boat, and you're planning all of these things, and then all of a sudden, month 3 hits, you get a couple chargebacks. You're not tracking your numbers. Your activity's slacking a little bit. You're kind of living this freelance insurance lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you're out of the business. One thing that I really wanted to focus on for me is to prevent that is I never counted any guaranteed issue. I only counted full advanced good business for healthy people, level premiums that I would write. That would be my production that I would count. Regardless of how much other production was there, I really wasn't making money off that or very much, and I wasn't, if it's as earned business, that's bonus to me. I didn't count that at all. But also, I was trained myself to realize that you are unemployed until your next app. It didn't matter what you did last week.
That's intense.
This week, you're in the hole.
Yeah.
I'm in debt this week because I had purchased leads, and I could be $600, $700, $800 in the hole, maybe $1,000 if I'm going on the road and I have hotel expenses. I'm negative $1,000 this week. Why am I going to smile about last week? It doesn't matter what I did last week. My goal this week is to take my expenses. I'm investing in myself. I'm betting on me, and I need to turn a profit. So you're allowed to hit that mindset. And actually, I watched a video the other day, and it was Kobe Bryant. They were interviewing him after I forget what series it was, because all that's on TV is these hardwood classics, right? It was the Lakers somebody in the finals, and he had a big game. The Lakers won by a lot, and they were up, I think 3-0 maybe in the series in a best of 7. And the interviewer's like, "Oh, hey Kobe, how's it going?" He goes, "Why aren't you smiling? Are you happy?" He goes, "What's there to celebrate?" They're like, "Well, you just put up 40 something points and you're up 3-0. Is the job finished?" And he goes, you took a commanding lead. He goes, "Oh, so is the job finished?" And they were like, he goes, "Okay, and then there's nothing to celebrate. The job's not done." And it's just that focus of understanding, and it was just...
That's why Kobe never got invited to parties.
Yeah, but it's that same mindset that you can't, 1 week of production isn't, the national championship of the year. You don't start going home, back to your home office and, "Hey, Roger, I had a good week," and you put your goggles on and start shaking up the wine and spraying it everywhere. Because you're at 0 this week, just like everybody else. In fact, you're probably negative because you will have some type of expenses. Even if you're on a free lead program, you still got gas and food and lunch and other expenses that come out. So, it's time to fire it back up. But that will help you maintain that mental edge. But knowing your numbers helps you to not and be gone. Because you'll know it's going to take this many leads. And even if I have a bad week this week, as long as I keep my activity up and I track my numbers, I know what's going to happen. Because some weeks you will write more than you will other weeks. I don't care who you are. Nobody has the same production every single week on the nose. It doesn't happen that way.
It's interesting when you talk to agents after a while, and I've had agents call and say, "I don't know what is happening, but I know my numbers are not the same as last year, and the AP is lower, Chris. The AP is lower." And I'll say, "Okay, let me check." Pull up the numbers. The AP is the exact same as it was.
Or sometimes it's higher. That's depressing for them.
And it's just how they feel. It is an emotional, and keeping track of your numbers it protects you from yourself in ways, from your emotions and how you're feeling about things. So I think good producers, they look at their numbers and review them and then come back. And, sometimes you have to pull out last year's numbers and take a look and say, "Man, it doesn't matter how this week goes. It doesn't matter."
Chris, have you ever had a phone call and they said, "Chris, it's me. It's me. Something's wrong with me. That's why my numbers are lower." Or is it always something else?
The lead.
It's always something else. We never take responsibility for that. But if you if you tracked your numbers,
I thought you were going to sing an Adele song. Chris,
Hello.
It's me.
It's me. Yeah. But if you actually track your numbers, you can't get upset on that because you have all the numbers in front of you. Oh, wow, when I look at this, and by the way, we track everybody's numbers. So when I do have those conversations like you, we can see, well, you were getting 10, 12 sits a week, and then you drop that down to 8 sits a week. Your door knocks, you were averaging 22 a day. Now you're averaging 7.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the leads.
Well, in some cases, the other conversation we have, Austin, is, all right, well, I don't know what's going on. My production's dipped, and we pull out the numbers and we take a look, and oh yeah, it's directly correlated to the fact that you decreased your lead order by 5.
Yeah,
that's 20 leads a month. You've decreased your opportunities by more than 20. By more than 20. Mm-hmm. Because I think Zach can probably tell us.
Because you were trying to save $100.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me because And I always tell people that say, hey, I'm trying to dial this in and get the perfect number of leads. I think it's going to be just 12. I just need 12 leads a week, or 14, or whatever the number is.
The people are always trying to dial it in, never say, I want to increase my leads by 10. I'm trying to dial in the right number. I'm trying to dial in the right number. I think I can make this much on 17, on 15, on 12.
Yeah. The thing is you decrease your leads order to that, you're still going to hit your numbers every now and then. But when you average it out, because you're going to have a lot of low weeks too. But if your target number every week is to hit 3,000 or 4,000 or whatever it is, you'll hit that sometimes, no matter how many leads you get. But all those other times when you hit 0 or 1,200, that's what's really going to crush you. And I always tell people, I was like, okay, perfect. We'll decrease your leads. We'll just take out. We won't assign you any of the leads that were going to be no sales. Do you know which ones that will be? And that's the thing, we don't, right? We don't know. Nobody sells every single lead they get at all, right? And we have to understand that. It's also a numbers game with the leads that we receive and that we convert. It's always a percentage of the leads. Why would you not want to increase the number of opportunities? Because those last 5, those might be all apps, and the first 15 or nothing. But those 5 are all good size apps, and you're at $6,000 for the week.
The other factor or number that people don't consider when they're trying to figure out leads, how much to invest in themselves. I mean, truly, if you just go back to this simple formula, 5 or 6 conversations a day to tell my story. 4 to 5 conversations a day, like Frank Betchker said, to tell my story. What does that take? If you've only got 12 leads, right, and you're not really good at networking, and you're not really good at referrals, and really good at running the tea or cloverleafing, you're not going to hit those numbers, right? And so the thing that most agents never count on are the uncontrollable variables that come into play. Bad weather, a flat tire, COVID-19, my family, someone's sick. My mother-in-law's car died, and I need to go help out because I'm the only one who doesn't have to report for a job at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. this morning in my family. So I'm the designated errand runner, right? And like all these variables that come into play in people's lives, those are never taken into consideration when people are trying to minimize the investment and still yield maximum results. Like, lean into the numbers. If you're going to get 4 to 5 stories, 4 to 5 presentations, 4 to 5 conversations a day about what it is that you do, you need 20 to 30 leads a week to see. Now, if you're getting them through networking, great. If you're getting them through referrals and you're that good, fantastic. If you're not, invest in the dang leads, right? Get the leads and go see the people. Start early enough so you can have those 4 or 5 conversations a day. Keep your head down for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Then look back and analyze your numbers. Don't get all emotional about it the first time there's a thunderstorm or there's a flood and the road was washed out on one of your 10 leads that you had and you couldn't get across there and that's why you had a bad week. Like, forget that. Invest in yourself. Go hit the numbers and just do the work.
Now, with all these numbers that you talked about and understanding how they work and what they affect, as an agent, how often should you review your own numbers?
Well, I believe you should you should track your numbers every day, and then you review them every week and every month, every quarter, every year. And make sure those numbers align with your goals and what you want to accomplish in this business, whatever that is. So really understanding, because that will tell the whole story. So if you're having a bad week, it could be you have great numbers as far as activity and everything you can control. And that's fine. Everybody will have a bad week. But if you're doing everything right and you're tracking your numbers and you're continuing to find areas of improvement, you'll never have a bad month. So tracking them at the end of the week, that will tell the story of your week, what really happened. Oh, well, nobody was ever home or this or that. Yeah, but you didn't put that many hours in this week. You didn't do as many door knocks or whatever the case may be. Looking at it for the month, this is what my monthly issue paid numbers were. And we track issue paid numbers because that's what matters. A lot of people do submit and they post them on whatever social media. Our top producer did 800 million in 2 days on 3 leads. They do all kinds of goofy things
all
to
these
make
Facebook groups.
Yeah, it makes everything feel great, but The issue paid numbers is the only thing that matters because that's what goes in the bank account. That's what helps pay the agent's bills at home. That's what sends a policy in the mail because it's been issued to the client, so that coverage is actually in force. So that's the true numbers. So if that number for the month isn't what you thought it would be, we can look at the numbers for that month of all those individual weeks, and we can see, okay, what areas do we need to work on? Maybe it's building a little bit more trust in the home at the beginning, or taking a little time after we sell the app to do a little cool down and make sure the client is comfortable with the premium, or making sure that we're using the correct pricing strategy so there isn't any money left on the table that somebody can come in and replace your policy, or we're not overpricing or just getting the client a really large premium when that's not comfortable or affordable or what they need, and to where they have to cancel the policy. So different things to help the placement and the persistency of the policy as well. So to answer your question, again, track your numbers every day, review your numbers every week, every month, every quarter, every year.
If you're not doing it daily, you're losing.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it daily, you're losing. And if people say, well, I'm getting off to a slow start today, so instead of starting now, I'll just start tomorrow. You just wiped out 20 or 25% of your week. So expect 20 to 25% lower immediately, and then don't factor in the uncontrollable variable that's going to raise its head on Thursday or Friday, and now you're down to 60% capacity. And pretty soon you're operating at 4 or 5 stories a week, not 4 or 5 stories a day, and you've got the sad face wondering, wonder why I can't make any money in this business.
And Roger, when you mentioned that, it depends on who you talk to, because I think that's a lot larger than 25%. Because for one, if you're wiping out that day on a Monday or a Tuesday, you're adding unneeded and unwanted pressure to your week to hit your goal with a very limited time. A lot of new people, that won't be good. The easiest thing for them to do is say, I'm going to wipe out this whole week and start fresh next Monday. Which can become an issue for your income, for your monthly numbers, for your yearly numbers, and all your goals.
And just like you would with a budget, you only budget on your current spend, not your dream goals, right? So to get started, start tracking your numbers, right? And then create your goals, review, go back to it.
Yeah, and I want to make this sheet available, Austin, that, for everybody that can start tracking today if they choose to. And like I said, this is for you to hit your goals and to find areas where there is improvement, because I'm in a belief that we're learning every single day and we're getting better. We don't reach a certain level. It's our first week at $5,000 or $10,000 or more than that. Doesn't mean we have arrived or there's nothing else to learn. So, I want this sheet to be available to start tracking your numbers. But the one thing I would recommend is you have to be honest with yourself. You can't inflate your numbers. You can't inflate your door knocks. And I think I did 28 today. No, just put a little tally mark each one you do. Keep it simple. That way you're honest with yourself. Because if you're the only way this sheet and you're knowing your numbers does not work is if you're not honest with yourself. Because that means, that was kind of a sit. I sat with them, and the husband wasn't home, so we didn't get to go to the presentation. That's a sit. No, it's not, because you didn't have an opportunity there. So that's going to throw off your closing ratio. It's going to throw off potentially the number of leads you need to hit your income goals. It will throw everything off. So you just have to be accountable to yourself, honest with yourself, and just write down, track your true numbers as you go. And then you'll be able to analyze them. Another thing with that is you might start tracking your numbers and do an excellent job. You have a couple big weeks, and then no problem. But when you have a terrible week, that's when you tend to stop tracking. You get frustrated.
Yeah.
You have a bad sit. Somebody slams a door in your face. It's happened to all of us. And then you're screw it, whatever. And you tend to not track your numbers on the low weeks, which doesn't make sense because you need the good weeks and the bad weeks.
There'll be some people who hear this today and they'll say, man, that's a great idea. I need to start tracking my numbers. I've never thought of that. They're going to start tracking their numbers. Some people are already doing it. But there will be some people who will think, I don't need to do that. I don't really have to track my numbers. I can figure this out on my own. and you have an emotion towards that. I think you kind of have to have an honest conversation with yourself and ask why. Why am I so opposed to looking and seeing the real numbers? I mean,
The real me.
The real me. Yeah. Yeah.
The real numbers translates to the real me.
Amen.
Be honest with yourself. Your numbers are indicative of you. Period. That's it. There's no filter. There's Chris said last week, there's nothing to feel. Just know the reality and do it.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. As Zach said, the activity sheet that our team uses daily is available to you on the show notes page. To access this download and the show notes, visit liapodcast.org/EP21. That's liapodcast.org/EP21. Now, once you download the PDF, print it out and start tracking your activity today. Then review your numbers, develop your daily and weekly goals, and determine areas that you can improve on. This key activity is sure to improve your sales if you just take the time to do it. Also, if you're having a hard time identifying what you need to work on, or you need someone to review your sheet with you, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help and connect you with the resources that you can use in those opportunity areas so that you can become more profitable. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Olvero. This episode was produced by Chris Ball and myself. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. Our next episode will be an audience-submitted topic, so submit your ideas. We want to hear them. Just go to liapodcast.org/feedback, and if we use your idea, we'll even send you some sweet swag. So we look forward to hearing from you. Until then, stay safe and go be a difference maker.